Rubru means face-to-face in the Urdu language. If you are a Muslim, the Rubru FTF series can help you find your bearings on where Muslims stand today in relation to their recent past. All viewers may find many of the misconceptions floating around, corrected by the information the Rubru FTF series supplies. This brief presents quotes from some Western scholars about Muslims' influence on the European Renaissance. It also shows how ChatGPT has formed its view on the subject, shared in Rubru Brief 7. Rubru Brief 9 presents similar quotes from Western scholars on Muslims' influence on the evolution of Western thought. Rubru Brief 8 and 9 are meant to introduce the nature of the subject. To control their size, they contain much fewer quotes than the vast number available in the literature. Here are the quotes.
Arnold Jabe Toynbee, A Study of History, 1934. The West borrowed heavily from the East, and particularly from the Islamic world, which preserved and enhanced Greek knowledge, thereby making the Renaissance possible. George Sarton, Introduction to the History of Science, 1927. The Arabs transmitted to us many sciences which we should never have known otherwise. The Renaissance was not a rebirth. It was a continuation of the culture of Islam. Thomas Arnold, The Legacy of Islam, 1931. Muslim Spain was the light of Europe, a beacon that illuminated the dark ages of medieval Christendom, setting the stage for the Renaissance. Robert Briffault, The Making of Humanity, 1919. It was under the influence of the Arabs and Moorish revival of culture, and not in the 15th century, that the real Renaissance took place. Spain, not Italy, was the cradle of the rebirth of Europe. Jack Goody, The Theft of History, 2006. The Renaissance in Europe owed much to the transmission of knowledge from the Islamic world, which had preserved and expanded upon the scientific and philosophical texts of antiquity. Mark Graham, How Islam Created the Modern World, 2006. The scientific method, experimental techniques, and much of modern medicine originated from the Muslim world, later serving as the foundation for the Renaissance. George Sarton, founder of the History of Science, Introduction to the History of Science, 1927. The Renaissance owes its origins to the immense influence of Islamic civilization, which through Spain and Sicily introduced to Europe Greek philosophy and science, as well as its own remarkable achievements. Philip K. Hitti, History of the Arabs, 1937. Muslims played a crucial role in the development of scientific knowledge. The Renaissance would not have been possible without the immense body of knowledge translated from Arabic into Latin. George Saliba, Islamic Science and the Making of the European Renaissance, 2007. The Islamic scientific tradition was one of the main channels through which the philosophy and science of antiquity were recovered, critiqued, and transformed, leading to the Renaissance in Europe. John M. Hobson, The Eastern Origins of Western Civilization, 2004. The Eastern origins of European civilization are found in the way that Islamic civilization transmitted to Europe not only the classical knowledge of the Greeks and Romans, but also its own innovations in science, technology, and culture, which were crucial to the emergence of the Renaissance. E. J. Homeyard, Alchemy, 1957. Without the works of Arab scientists such as Al-Razi, Ibn Sina, and Al-Hazen, the intellectual revolution that led to the European Renaissance would have been inconceivable. Stanley Lane-Poole, The Moors in Spain, 1886. The light of Arab learning shone upon Europe, and it was from them that Christian scholars received that science, medicine, and philosophy which were to help usher in the Renaissance. Joseph McCabe, The Influence of the Arabs on Civilization, 1916. The Arabs paved the way for the Renaissance, for modern science, and for the modern age by creating the intellectual bridge between antiquity and Europe. George Sarton, Introduction to the History of Science, 1927. The intellectual debt of Europe to Islamic scholars is too vast to be adequately expressed. The Renaissance owes its origins to the immense influence of Islamic civilization. S. P. Scott, History of the Moorish Empire in Europe, 1904. The glories of the Arab civilization were the stepping stones of modern Europe. It was the Moors of Spain who planted the seeds of the Renaissance. Stanley Lane Poole, The Moors in Spain, 1886. The debt of Europe to Islam is simply immeasurable. Without the Moors in Spain, the Renaissance would have been impossible. S. Frederick Starr, Lost Enlightenment, Central Asia's Golden Age from the Arab Conquest to Tamerlane, 2013. The flowering of knowledge in the Islamic world provided the essential foundation for the Renaissance in Europe, through the transmission of scientific, mathematical, and philosophical texts. Montgomery Watt, The Influence of Islam on Medieval Europe, 1972. The idea of the Renaissance as a new birth is only part of the truth. The debt of the medieval world to Islam was much greater than is generally admitted.